Cold, silent. The stadium expects a miracle, and for 8 seasons, the Chiefs have delivered them like clockwork. Not tonight, not this time. Patrick Mahomes goes down, clutching a knee that twists the narrative of an entire decade, and suddenly the script flips. The dynasty is not invincible. It's vulnerable, human, and very much unfinished. They open with a flash of the old magic. Mahomes scrambles for a touchdown on that first drive. The sort of play that used to make the rest of the league feel like it was chasing smoke. For a moment you think, maybe this is the night? Maybe the instincts still live. But the game turns into a field goal slog, the cold bites at Arrowhead, and the margins that always felt infinite for Kansas City shrink tick by tick, update by update, as other games fold the playoff map into something lethal. Outside of Arrowhead, results conspire. Houston and Jacksonville build leads. Buffalo completes the kind of comeback that finishes off more than a score. It finishes off hope. When those other games land the way they do, Kansas City's last-minute sprint stops being about grit and becomes about survival. That's when the moment comes. Mahomes rolls. He's hit from behind. His planted leg doesn't cooperate. He screams. The stadium, which has never learned how to be quiet through historic collapses, finally goes still. You can feel the weight of everything in one sickening hurry. Trainers, a blue tent, teammates with towels over their heads, a quarter-century of miracles suddenly powerless. The diagnosis that comes later, a torn ACL, isn't just medical. It's symbolic. It's the season snapping like a thin branch under a December wind. This team has been built on a particular kind of arrogance, the belief that when it matters most, they'll find a way. That belief carried them to 7 AFC title games in a row. It forgave sloppiness because their playmakers repeatedly rewrote endings. This season, those safety nets frayed. The completion percentage dips, the rushing yards climb because Mahomes is improvising more than orchestrating, and answers that used to appear on cue now arrive late or not at all. But the story isn't only about a knee. It's about the ripple. Gardner Minshew, a backup who hadn't thrown a single regular season pass all year, is suddenly the man leading the last-minute drive. He moves them to the edge of the field, inches from a chance, then an interception. The ball finds a defender who has been paid to shadow Travis Kelce all year. The shot clock on the dynasty runs out, and the scoreboard reads 16-13, a number that used to be a comma in a longer sentence. Tonight, it reads like an ending. This is the kind of collapse that doesn't care about past resume. It erases the buffer and forces decisions. Andy Reid sits in the press room, and every word he'll say next week will be measured against a new reality. How do you retool an offense built around a quarterback who has been the franchise's heartbeat? When your centerpiece gets hurt, do you rest him, or do you force a comeback that risks the next 5 years for one lost season? The calculus here is messy, public, and relentless. There's also the roster architecture. Kelce getting older, Chris Jones not quite the wrecking ball he once was, veterans who have been the scaffolding of this team suddenly looking like shorter planks than once imagined. The salary cap becomes a different beast when your star is recovering, when you have to decide whether to patch holes now or rebuild later. That offseason just got noisier, and the league breathes in. For years, the AFC had a monoculture, Kansas City. Defenses schemed for Mahomes and still lost. Coaches built whole seasons around avoiding what the Chiefs did best. Now the landscape opens. Teams like Denver, Jacksonville, Buffalo, they act differently when they don't have a single guaranteed obstacle in the way. The playoff bracket redraws itself in an instant. What felt like a dynasty's inevitability becomes an open question. Who rises to fill the vacuum? Emotion, oddly, is a currency in this moment. Fans who have watched Mahomes carve impossible plays for years mourn like a team lost a family member. Teammates stripped of their on-field leader will either fracture or rally. Football is merciless about time. It punishes lingering pity. The next plays, the next decisions, the next roster moves, they will determine which of those outcomes happens. Make no mistake, Mahomes' career is not over. ACLs are recoverable. Elite athletes rehab, reemerge, and sometimes come back sharper for the work. But the timeline matters, and the ripple does too. An offseason devoted to surgery, recovery, and recalibration is an offseason not spent scheming immediate returns. Meanwhile, the front office has to weigh whether to chase short-term patches or commit to a longer rebuild that keeps Mahomes in a position to return to excellence. The cruel poetry of this night is in the contrast. 12 months ago, this franchise played for home field advantages and conference crowns with the casual confidence afforded to dynasties. Tonight, they leave Arrowhead with the same stadium lights that used to herald triumph, and they are not cheering. Instead, they are calculating. They are asking whether a run that once felt perennial needs reshaping, or whether the core can be salvaged with smart decisions and a long, patient hand. But stories don't end at the moment of injury. They twist. They test character. For Kansas City, the test is not merely medical or tactical. It's existential. Who are they without the man who has been their identity? Do they become a team that rebuilds with humility, or do they try to paper over an aging core with veteran splashes that keep them good enough, but never great? Here's the thing about dynasties. They aren't just built on great players. They're built on a relentless culture that can survive a season of pain and still know how to come back better. The Chiefs have had that blueprint. Whether they still do is the question now. This moment could be the first crack that widens, or it could be the hinge that swings the franchise into a smarter, more sustainable next chapter. Tonight feels like an ending because it is convenient to call it one. But endings are just forms of beginnings in disguise. Mahomes will heal. The team will make decisions that feel like daily triage. The NFL will fill the airwaves with rumors and trade talk and guesses. One thing's certain, the balance of power in the AFC just shifted. The rest of the league will act like predators smell blood, because in competitive sports, they do. If you want the simple takeaway, the Chiefs' era didn't end with fireworks or a dramatic collapse in the standings. It ended with a man on the turf whose injury changed the geometry of a decade. But the bigger story, how Kansas City answers, is what will really decide whether this is the last gasp of a dynasty or the pause before its next great act. Watch the next moves closely. The offseason will tell you everything. How many times over the last 8 seasons did the Kansas City Chiefs cheat the ending? How many Patrick Mahomes miracles, Travis Kelce bailouts, and Andy Reid's sleight-of-hand moments convinced the rest of the league that this team was never truly dead? On Sunday, that magic finally ran out. Kansas City's season, and maybe an era, ended in the cold at Arrowhead, with a 16-13 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, and Patrick Mahomes limping off the field as the reality set in. No escape. No late twist. No January football. For most of the Mahomes era, the Chiefs never really played with their backs against the wall. They were the wall. 7 straight AFC championship games, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Lombardi trophies. December football usually meant positioning, not survival. This time, it was survival. The Chiefs entered Sunday staring at playoff elimination for the first time since 2014, back when Mahomes was still a freshman at Texas Tech. Win, and they lived another week. Lose, and the math would eventually catch them. Mahomes tried to summon the old version of Kansas City early. His 12-yard scramble on the opening drive put the Chiefs ahead and briefly reminded everyone who they used to be. But that spark never became a fire. The game slowed into a grinding field goal battle, played in brutal 15-degree cold with both teams trading punches and injuries. Just before halftime, Justin Herbert found Keandre Lambert-Smith for a touchdown, cutting the lead to 13-10 and shifting momentum. From there, the tension only grew. As the Chargers chipped away and Cameron Dicker lined up field goals, out-of-town scoreboards turned ugly. Buffalo erased a massive deficit. Houston and Jacksonville surged. Arrowhead went from confident to anxious in real time. Kansas City kept getting chances and kept coming up empty. Early in the fourth quarter, Mahomes threw a red zone interception. Around the same moment, Buffalo completed its comeback. The margin for error was gone. One more mistake would end everything. With 5:20 left, the Chiefs got the ball down 3. Win the drive or go home. Then it happened. Just after the 2-minute warning, Mahomes planted on his already injured left knee. It bent awkwardly. He went down. The stadium went silent. Trainers helped him off, and the face of the franchise disappeared down the tunnel. Gardner Minshew, who hadn't thrown a single pass all season, was suddenly tasked with saving Kansas City's year. He moved them into range. One last chance. Interception. Game over. Season over. The The Chiefs will finish the year against Tennessee, Las Vegas, and Denver. Games that suddenly feel like epilogues instead of chapters. The Chargers, once buried under Kansas City in the AFC West, now stand tall as the division shifts beneath everyone's feet. Patrick Mahomes is still only 30. Another run may come. Another version of this team may rise. But the version that always escaped, the one that never stayed down, that one walked off the field Sunday night in the cold with no magic left to spend. How many times over the last 8 seasons did the Kansas City Chiefs cheat the ending? How many Patrick Mahomes miracles, Travis Kelce bailouts, and Andy Reid's sleight-of-hand moments convinced the rest of the league that this team was never truly dead? On Sunday, that magic finally ran out. Kansas City's season, and maybe an era,